Welcome to another edition of Rock Solid Wellness. I'm your host, Rich Petrus, and I am going to be teaching today the third in a series of videos that will give all of you enough information to make a good, logical, prudent decision on how to take total control of your health. Actually, folks, it's kind of like a biohacker's guide to optimum health and wellness, utilizing a system approach, to wellness. And it's an approach where it's not what you take that's important, it's what the cells of your body make that is important. Getting your body to function like you were really very young again, maybe newborn to 10 years of age. So, what I would like to say first is I'm going to present scientific information today. All of my videos are relative to validated research and scientific information, and none of the information that I'm going to communicate is related to treating, curing, or mitigating any disease. Okay, so let's delve into the science today. First thing I want to say is everybody eats. Some people eat correctly, some people eat a great organic diet, drink good water, and do a really good job maintaining the responsibility to their body and putting into it what it needs. But food, folks, is more than nutrition. And relative to the science that I'm representing today, the science of nutrigenomics, food contains the signals for your genetic pathways, to initiate your genetic pathways. And that is an important concept and revelation to understand. The three pathways of activation that we're considering today. Well, actually, we've already talked about opening up the genetic pathway, the NRF1 genetic pathway, which is the mitochondrial genetic pathway. And that was the second video, the very first video, creating the foundation, talking about opening up the NRF2 genetic pathway. But today, we're going to be talking about the NAD, Sertuin genetic pathway. So today, covering the NAD Sertuin theory of aging, and you'll see why I just made that statement. Our genetic, look, folks, our genetic code would allow us to live our own individually created genetic codes. They're all different for every single person. And the way they're created, it would allow us that genetic code that we inherited at our conception and in our birth would really allow us to live to be 140 years of age. However, that would be fine if we didn't suffer disease and illness. So the process of aging is literally our detriment. So when we get older, I'm talking about above the age of 30, we suffer from information loss at the cellular level. Our DNA in every one of our cells, in our body, our genetic DNA, it stores our data, our encodedness, what makes us function properly. And we have a genome and we have something called an epigenome. The epigenome is unstable in our bodies. It's an analog function, if you will. It changes on the fly. Our epigenome changes because what it does is it's our adaptation system. It adapts to our epigenome it responds to what we eat and drink, our environment, what we breathe, actually even what we think, what we do, our stress levels, etc., all cause our epigenome, our analog epigenome system, to adapt to what it is that we put ourselves through. So our environment affects how our genes, the 20 to 35,000 genes, encoded genes in the nucleus of every cell, our environment affects how our genes express themselves. So our environment will influence whether our genes turn on or whether our genes switch off, turn off. So let's try to make this a little bit easy. Let's consider two discs that store information, DVD discs, okay? And one of them is brand new, a brand spanking new disc, which when it relates to us as an individual, that new disc contains all of our encodedness, everything about us, everything that makes us perk and tick and so on. All of that digital information on that new disc is easy to read, and it's accessible, and it's applied to our physiology. And when it's moving and turning and doing what it's supposed to do, everything in our body works just fine. It's easy to access that information. There's nothing that stands in the way from deriving from that new disk the encoded information that we need to function properly. But let's consider a second disk. The second disk is old, and it's scratched, and it's damaged to a certain degree. So therefore, this disk that it contains all our encoded information, but because it's damaged and scratched, and over time it's been weathered, so to speak, because of use and overuse. It's more difficult for that disk to be read. It's more difficult to utilize the information from that older damaged disk. And so therefore that disk, in relation to our humanness and our cellular function, it's affected by our environment, what we eat, what we drink, what we breathe, where we work, etc., and our age. The older we get, the more our disc becomes damaged and scratched, not allowing us to retrieve that important encoded data from our genes. So the environment changes. We're analog, okay? Our epigenome. But the data on the disk was digital, the new disk. The new disk data was digital information, but the data on the old disk was analog, and it changes on a daily, on a minute by minute, really, basis. So it's the same with our genetic code, folks. So how does our epigenome, the part of our system that changes and has to respond, and it's our response system to everything that we go through, how does the epigenome get damaged? It gets damaged because of our exposure to ultraviolet, things of this nature. Exposure to ultraviolet light, toxins in our diet, what we eat, what we drink, etc., free radicals, and then our oxidative stress. And our free radicals lead to severe oxidative stress and damage to our cells. So this chemical damage scratches or cuts into our genetic code. And the older we get, the more problems that we develop in our health and our ability to maintain our proper level and the level that we want of health and wellness and aging. So chemical damage also influences our opened up our mitochondrial pathway, and chemical damage also negatively influences our oxidative stress genetic pathway as well. And that's information you can derive from the first two videos prior to this one. Now, we're talking about the genetic pathway, the Sertuin genetic pathway. And the first three letters of Sertuin, S-I-R-T-U-I-N, What does that stand for? Silent Information Regulator. It's important because, and so that's important to understand that it is a regulator. So, what do sirtuins do? What are some important jobs that these proteins, which are really leading to our anti aging system in our body, what jobs do these sirtuin proteins do? This is a list, it's kind of extensive, but not limited to this list because sirtuins the anti-aging genes do a lot relative to our complex function of our physiology. The first is that sirtuins repair damaged DNA. Is that important? It's extremely important. Okay, there are tags in our system. The old and you have to do some research into sirtuins, but tags developed the older we get. It has to do with something called histones, and the more tags we get, the older our markers are and the less our ability to be able to sustain a good optimum level of wellness. Well, sirtuins, if they are produced at maximum levels, they help to remove these tags, these markers, which make us old. That's kind of an easy way to put it. Telomeres, they are the tips of our chromosomes. The sirtuins protect those telomeres. The mitochondrial function, sirtuins really aid in the performance of our mitochondria, which are our powerhouses, as we learned in the second video. Sirtuins promote autophagy. Oh, autophagy, what is that word? Autophagy is a deep cellular cleanse. It's very difficult to cause this to happen. I'll explain a little bit later, shortly here, exactly other ways that you can do it, but they're not favorable ways. They're not ways that people look to do, even though a lot of people implement these measures, but it's not comfortable, it's not easy, it's not the proper way to go. Protein synthesis, synthesizing, breaking down, utilizing our proteins. Proteins are messengers, but they're very important to our body function. For example, NRF1 for mitochondrial production is a protein. NRF2 for the purpose of communicating through NRF2 transcription factor to the genes in the nucleus, it's a protein. And when they're utilized or synthesized correctly, they do remarkable things. Okay, another thing that sirtuins do is they aid in the reduction of stem cell depletion. Stem cells are important. Some people get stem cell replacements done. Oh, here's a big one. Oh, a big one. Do the research. Don't go on just what I'm talking about today. Sertuin research aids in tumor suppression. Very important. Inflammation leads to pain, and people who are suffering from fibromyalgia and arthritis, and or maybe they were in an accident and they're in pain in generally speaking. So when sirtuin production is at a high level, then inflammation is decreased. And here's one that's really huge. Sirtuin production at maximum levels improves insulin sensitivity. That's relative to glucose levels and diabetes, and that's and metabolism, etc. It's a big deal. Now there's more, but that gives you an idea how important those proteins are. Sirtuins, they are extremely important. So let's go back now to those two discs that I talked about in relation to what I just taught relative to sirtuins and their importance and some of the things that they do to promote positive cellular function. So let's do this disc visualization again. So we have NAD, okay, and NAD is really the cellular guardian housekeeper of the performance of the new disc and the old disc, which represents our human cellular physiology. The NAD is the CEO, so to speak. It's in charge. It's very important. I don't want to say it's in charge, but it has its major function. You know, the CEA is one portion of the company, but without all the rest of the components, the workers, the staff, etc., the CEO is important, very important, ultimately important, but other things have their importance as well. Okay, so the NAD restores the surface of our scratched epigenome disk, which allows retrieval of the information back to a younger state in our life. And the NAD helps to get rid of the noise from the scratches and in our disc, in our epigenome, as it ventures forward to respond to things that are happening in our life that is causing damage to our cells. NAD is kind of like a buffer. It restores the tags that I talk about, and it regulates. This is so important. NAD regulates how that disc, which represents our genetic information, is read. And if it's easy to read and accessible, and our genetic encodedness is able to be downloaded and utilized wherever necessary in the body, then we function at optimum wellness levels. Now let's continue to proceed in this venture of understanding NAD. NAD really is the polish to restore the scratched disc. It's like having a buffer, and you put the polish on the buffer and you start the disc that's all scratched, and it's designed to buffer that scratched disc and repair it so that this information, the genetic information, is accessible again. Now, what does NAD stand for? Are you ready for this? Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. I don't have that memorized, but that's why I use the term NAD instead of trying to repeat that all of the time. NAD is a cofactor of sirtuins so that the sirtuins can do all of their work. Without NAD, sirtuins start their depletion by age 20 or 25. And by 40, they're 60% depleted. And the sirtuins are very important to normal body function. So NAD is important for other longevity genes and enzymes as well. Okay, there's one called mTOR, and that mTOR is the balance between building and tearing down things in our body. It's an important part of physiology. Another one, AMPK. AMPK helps metabolism and glucose and insulin regulation. So if those building blocks that I just mentioned, relative that work in synergy with NAD, if they are maintained at high levels, then very positive things continue to happen in our body. If they're not, then things start to break down, and it's evident as we get older. Now, listen to this. This is science related. You can do searches about nutrition and food and the science of nutrigenomics, etc. But our diet, how important is our diet? Many scientific articles and videos that are out there that state all that I just taught you about. NAD is affected by our eating habits, either in a positive way or in a negative way, as is NRF1 getting to the cytoplasm and this NRF2 protein getting to the nucleus. Diet is an issue. So we need to hydrate our body and learn to eat a good diet. Okay, so let's review a little bit relative to genetics. Damage, what causes damage to our cells? Well, there's a lot of things, but one is oxidative stress, obviously, in our environment. Number two, damage causes information loss. And I talked about what is involved in the damage. It causes information loss, it causes aging, and it causes cellular dysfunction. Sertuin proteins, however, repair the damage of information loss and dysfunction and aging. And sirtuin proteins, they have to have NAD to do all of their work. So NAD is, let's review a little bit more. NAD is a cofactor for many anti-aging mechanisms in our body. Anti-aging. People who live to be 100, centurions, they don't have a problem with continued high function of cells to produce the NAD so that sirtuins can be produced at maximum youthful levels. So therefore, we want to increase, sirtuins are important, so we want to increase those proteins of NAD so that we can be as healthy as we want to be, even older in life, just like centurions who live to be over 100 because their three genetic pathways remain open and gene expression does not diminish after the age of 30. So, sir, how can this be accomplished? How can we increase our sirtuin production? Well, one of the ways is that we could do caloric restriction, 600 calories a day. Who wants to do that? That is so difficult. It's almost torture to most people. It's difficult, so difficult to do that. Okay, a normal diet, even a 2,000 calorie diet is difficult for some people. But 600 calories, oh my goodness, you could do intermittent fasting. Fasting is good. Actually, intermittent fasting is probably easier to do than caloric restriction. But caloric restriction increases sirtuin production, and so does intermittent fasting. And aerobic exercise also increases sirtuin production. Now, it's so much easier. It is so much easier to take 2 capsules with NRF1 and NRF2 and get the same result. It's important to eat a good diet. It's important to fast occasionally. And it's important to exercise. But it's so much easier to get maximum sirtuin production by taking 2 capsules. All right, now, sirtuins. A little bit of information about when they start to diminish. That process starts actually about 20 or 25 years of age. And folks, by the age of 40 or 50, your sirtuin production, those very important anti-aging genes, they're reduced by 40 or 50%. And by the age of 90, your body is only producing 2% sirtuins. Diminished 98%. And now, remember, you need NAD for sirtuins to be produced. NAD is found in every cell in the body. But just like mitochondrial decline, just like the fact that we have issues with oxidative stress because our genes don't produce as many of the 4 antioxidative enzymes, the same occurs with the production of the sirtuins. So we can, if the science states that if a person attempts to try to make these enzymes from scratch by taking certain nutrients or supplements, you're going to get maybe a 3% bump in the production of sirtuins. However, science has revealed a way that is medically validated that you can use a salvage pathway system in your cells to recirculate the NAD that's already inherent within the production of our that's inherently produced within the normal function of our cells. It's a complex process, but think about this. If we try to make it from scratch by taking something, you get a 3% bump in 48 hours. But listen to what occurs. Ooh, this is exciting. It's complex. This is a complex process, but in essence, you get the spare parts to make the NAD. And there are two components called NMR and NR. When these are activated, what does the Protandim NAD synergizer do when you get those two other components activated and you recirculate the NAD that's already there in our cells? Well, oh, it signals those two enzymes, signals them. The recirculation process begins, and they become very much more active, like we were very youthful again. And there is 100% increase in Sertuin activity within just 24 hours. That is better than caloric restriction. And it's as simple as taking a capsule, Protandim NAD Synergizer, which is designed to recirculate the NAD in our cells so that they can be functional again. So the solution, take 2 capsules. So what can we expect to occur if we start taking Protandim NAD Synergizer in conjunction with Protandim NRF1 and Protandim NRF2 by opening up those two genetic pathways? When we open up the third genetic pathway and allow the synergy to take place, there is going to be an absolute boost in your mental and physical energy and improved mood. I think that's important. Improved mental focus and concentration, promotes healthy DNA function, maintains healthy cholesterol levels that are already in the normal range, supports healthy inflammatory response in our body, minimizing our aches and pains, and it supports a healthy vascular system and all the other things that I said that NAD does. So this is part 3 this is okay. The NAD is part of a 3-part integrated complex cellular pathway system, and these 3 formulas taken together, they complement each other. You already know what happens when you open up the NRF1 and NRF2 pathways, these genetic pathways. And so it's important that we heal and we're able to age gracefully and slowly by utilizing the 3 components and opening up the 3 genetic pathways, Protandim NRF1, the NRF1 genetic pathway, the mitochondrial pathway, the oxidative stress genetic pathway, and the Sertuin genetic pathway. Synergy. There's power in these 3 formulas working together. So NRF2, to review a little bit, is kind of the cleanup crew, and that was the foundation. I mean, that's getting that protein to the nucleus is what really gets our body to function at very youthful levels. It cleans up the damage. It gets our body to function at maybe newborn to 10 years of age levels. And it puts out the fires in our body and minimizes the inflammation that takes place. NRF1, on the other hand, it's like a furnace and energy company. The NRF1 is the powerhouse. Causing mitochondria to produce at maximum levels. Mitochondria are powerhouses of every cell, maximizing the performance and the power of every function in our body. But the NAD, as I talked about, is kind of like the CEO, kind of like the parent in our family. It's the cell executive officer. It tells the cells what to do: clean up, destroy, produce energy, metabolize and utilization of fats. It's like the parent when NAD are depleted, nothing, nothing, nothing works correctly in our body. Now, I talked about synergy. I talked about the three formulas working together. What does the science say about the synergy of these two? Well, in a quick review, we know that taking NRF1 and NRF2 together, the synergy of these two, if I can get it positioned correctly, the gene expression is enhanced 68%. In 30 days, the cells neutralize 40% of the age-related oxidative stress, and in 120 days, the cells neutralize 70% of the oxidative stress, and everything else that I thought about that happens with increase in mitochondria and increase of the antioxidative enzymes. Okay, that's a game breaker. Gene expression, the science of nutrigenomics, raising gene expression by 68%. There's no prescription medication or other supplements that do that. But what happens when we add synergistically the Protandim NAD synergizer, which recirculates our NAD that is inherent within our cells? And what happens when the three are taken together? What are the synergistic medical research validated conclusions? Well, gene expression is enhanced in 24 hours from 68% to 15 to 1800%. The cells of your body will neutralize 78% of the age-related oxidative stress in 1 day, not 70% in 4 months. And as I talked about in the discussion of what NAD, one of the components of and the benefits of taking NAD, it promotes autophagy. Autophagy is a very deep cellular cleanse. But these statistics, and I'm almost done. Hang in there just a couple more minutes. These statistics are overwhelming. There are baseline medical conclusions that have been established in the 45 years of research to produce Protandim NRF2. There are baseline conclusions in the performance of the cells by increasing mitochondria relative to NRF1, and there are baseline conclusions in what happens when a person recirculates their NAD that's inherent in our own cells. However, if all three are taken together in synergy, NRF1, Protandim NRF1 synergizer, is enhanced by 69%. There is an increase in the performance of mitochondria by 69%. What happens when we take all three together relative to NRF2, the foundation to cellular activation, flipping that switch? It is so important. It is so important. We know what happens when we just take one tablet a day. Go back to the first video and learning how to take control of your health. But when you take all three together, NRF2 is enhanced in its ability to promote positive cellular performance by 1,563%. Oh my God, can you imagine that? Can you imagine? It's a paradigm shift in medicine. It's miraculous what happens when we take one tablet a day. But when you take all three together, an increase in the ability of the body to neutralize oxidative stress by 1,563% above the baseline performance. And NAD, the anti-aging genes, that's what creates our longevity. When we take these three formulas together, the medical research states that NAD, the performance of NAD, and the Sertuins, the production of the actual Sertuins, the anti-aging genes, increase by 1,792%. And those medical results are so so astounding. The research was done over and over again over a 3.5 year clinical trials period. But those are the results. And because of it, the 2018 Bronze Stevie Award, it's an international award for the best new product or service of the year, was awarded to the research related to the tri-synergy approach of taking Protandim NRF1, NRF2, and Protandim NAD Synergizer. This is in the area of health and pharmaceutical category. There were 3,900 entries from 74 different countries. This tri-synergy approach received the top award internationally. So, if you want more information from those who are in the know, the person who created Protandim NRF2 over 45 years, a vascular surgeon who teaches the benefit of getting the NRF1 and NRF2 protein to the proper places, and I taught what happens when that occurs, and then a video which talks and details specifically what NAD does in conjunction to and in synergy with, and when it's taken together with Protandim NRF1 and NRF2. You can mark this down. It's a site that you can go to, and in 30 minutes you can watch all three doctors present. It's A, B, C, G, O, T, IT, abcgotit.com/Rich. My first name, RICH. abcgotit.com/Rich. Watch the three videos. Top video first, bottom video second, middle video third. So when we learn how to flip the switch, when we learn, sorry that the phone is ringing, but when I can't answer it, when we learn how to flip the three genetic switches and open up the three genetic pathways, miracles occur. Folks, if you want my help, I'll give you my cell phone number. Text me. I do not charge for my services. I will be more than happy to guide you to the scientific research. It's all science related, and you can make a good, positive decision on how to take control of yourself. The biggest paradigm shift in medicine ever, the utilization of the tri-synergy approach, the nutrigenomic approach, by taking Protandim NRF1, Protandim NRF2, and Protandim NAD Synergizer. That synergy is causing people that were extremely unhealthy, and once they flipped the switch on the three genetic pathways, hydrated their body, ate a good diet, and proper bowel elimination, stopped poisoning themselves by things that they were eating and drinking, caused their body to function like they were newborn to maybe 10 years of age. They went from being very unhealthy to being very healthy. So folks, you know how to get in touch with me. You have another professional medical video that you can watch, the three doctors who talk about this science specifically and in detail. You have the potential to take control of your health by gaining the knowledge that is necessary to make an application and a choice and a decision to set yourself free. So until next time, I hope that you all have rock solid wellness, that you have a good day, a good week, and you make good decisions. You are worth, you deserve to be healthy, you deserve to be pain-free, you deserve to have optimum health, and that's what this approach is about. Blessings to everybody. Till next time.